Hello everybody, my name is Eli Sauce and this is my lovely assistant,
Estella.
And today we're going to show you how to make homemade bone broth because it is super good for you. And it's also really yummy, and it's winter in Santa Monica, so the last week it actually dipped below 70 degrees, so it's nice to heat this stuff up in the morning. And she has it for breakfast. I even have it before having coffee.
Yeah, and it also really helps your hair, your skin, and your nails. And that's all thanks to collagen, which is in it. Very
good, thanks to collagen. And I'm going to be showing you how to make it in bulk because even though it is really good for you and really delicious, it's earmuffs. It's a huge pain in the ass to make and really messy. So Estella is going to tell us what veggies we're going to put in there first. Go ahead, Stella.
So we're going to put in onions, carrots, celery,
got some mystery stuff over there. So that is Italian parsley.
This is parsley.
And we just kind of take whatever we have left over in the refrigerator. So if you think of
herbs,
got lots of herbs, yeah. So if you think about this as like making a big cup of chicken soup, I've got some sage here, some leftover rosemary that I think might have been from Thanksgiving, some marjoram, thyme. We'll throw a few bay leaves in there. We've got some apple cider vinegar that we're actually going to soak the bones in for a bit to leach the minerals out of. And then we have the good stuff. Like I said, this is just kind of like a hobo stew that you kind of can take what is left in your fridge and make the most out of it. This was a roast chicken that we had for dinner tonight, and that is the leftover chicken carcass. All of the veggies that we have are organic. We get most of our stuff just from the local farmers market. And a general rule of thumb for scaling everything is for every gallon of broth you end up making, like every gallon of water, you're going to put in 1 onion, 2 carrots, 2 stalks of celery, and 2 pounds of bones. And we're going to be doing a little combo with the beef and just putting in some of the chicken for flavor there. And this is the beast that we're going to be putting it all in. And this is a 24-quart pot.
Otherwise known as 6 gallons.
Otherwise known as 6 gallons, Miss Brainiac. And that means that with all this stuff, we're probably looking at, I don't know, like 1 gallon to 2 gallons of volume taken up just by the stuff we're going to put in there. So I think it's going to yield us probably 4.5 actual gallons of bone broth once we're all said and done.
Keep in mind that you don't have to make 6 gallons of bone broth. You can make 1 gallon, 2 gallons, however much you think you're going to use.
We're just doing a lot because it's a pain in the behind, and it's just a lot to clean up. So, Stelly, why don't you show us all the yummy stuff we got here?
Okay.
So, these are the meatier ribs. Why don't you go ahead and open those up?
And these are all grass-fed.
That's right. So we get those at a local butcher called A Cut Above. They're awesome.
Shout out to them.
Shout out to A Cut Above. They're great.
Yum.
They're also super expensive. So if you plan ahead of time, you can go to wellnessmeats.com and I'll share that link out, and you can get a bunch of stuff that is frozen. And here, Stelly, why don't you open these guys up here?
So we also have these. We have some chicken fingers.
Chicken feet. Like, So, these
I don't like those.
These are optional. These freak some people out. But you can put in 2 of those guys for every gallon of broth, and it adds a lot of gelatin that's also really beneficial. So we're just going to take all these big pieces of veggie and really just get them to a size where they're more manageable to shove into the crock pot and move around with all of the beef knuckles and chicken carcass and feet and other good stuff we have. So aside from it being fantastic for your skin, hair, and nails, like Stelly pointed out, which is also way cheaper than Botox, it has many other benefits. One of the biggest ones being joint health. So all the collagen that is going to come out of these bones is amazing for all the connective tissue in your body. Okay, these marrow bones and rib bones are out of the oven, and you guys missed the part where I almost scalded my hand because they're really hot. And they also smell so delicious. It smells like I'm making a pot roast or something in here. So I'm going to take these guys and just throw them into my crock pot. And they've gotten all nice and juicy now, and they really do smell delicious. Like I could just fully gnaw on some of these right now. We're going to be taking some apple cider vinegar, which is kind of a miracle food in itself. This stuff, you can just go on and on about the reported benefits. Antimicrobial, antibacteria. It's been said to even be preventative for cancer, for heart disease. It will lower your blood sugar and your insulin levels. And you can drink a bit of it straight, like maybe a tablespoon at a time. Oh, but it's really, really rough. So we're going to be doing... Oh, wow. Don't do that at home. So we're going to be doing half a cup for every gallon. So our kind of rule for this one is multiplying this out. So that was a giant SCOBY that formed in there. That's right, we'll cook it up. And what this is going to do is actually leach the mineral out of the bones. And I'm going to put my 2 cups in there for this massive crock pot. And then I'm just going to cover it with water. And the water that I'm using, if at all possible, really depending where you live, try to use filtered water. I've got this crazy 5-stage reverse osmosis filter set up under the sink here. And the tank that it all runs into, that then feeds into the spigot, I think is only 3 gallons. So I actually have to stop when I'm filling this thing up and let it refill and then put the water back in it again. But right now I just want enough water that it dilutes the apple cider vinegar and covers the bones, and I'm going to let that then sit there for an hour. I'm going to throw my chicken carcass in there too. Well, I've got it out, but I'll put in the chicken feet later, since it's really the gelatin in those that we're interested in. Okay, so my bones have been soaking for about an hour here, and I'm going to flip this filtered water back on, dump in all of the chopped veggies, which really starts to fill it up there. I'm going to also put in my chicken feet, which I strongly suggest if you have kids or squeamish roommates, you just want to touch those on their cheek while they're sleeping. It's a surefire way to win friends. And let's get all these little guys in here. The parsley and garlic and herbs. A lot of people wait until this has already been boiling for a couple of days and they put this in the last couple of hours. My theory is that I'm probably going to forget if I just don't do it right now. And I think it's a pretty sound theory. So I'm actually going to dump these in and just throw these entire big bunches of parsley in. And also put in my herbs. And again, you can just kind of put in whatever you want. Stuff that you would normally season like a chicken soup with. This is just a total random smattering of different herbs that I have laying around. But I think it's all going to taste really good. I'll throw in a handful of thyme. Okay, so now we've got it all on the stove, and we're going to fire this up. And I'm going to throw in just a handful of 4 bay leaves here just because I have them sitting around. And I'm going to top this off with a couple items, just some natural sea salt here. And again, I just want to kind of eyeball, like, you know, maybe a tablespoon or so of this. Grab some paprika just because we're Hungarian and we gotta put it in everything. I'm actually going to take the top off this, and I'm a little liberal with the paprika. I'm going to put in about 2 full tablespoons, and maybe even add in a little bit later as well. And then just a bit of fresh ground pepper. There we go. And I'm just going to give this a little bit of a stir to mash it all in there. So what's going to happen now is I'm going to let this come to a full boil and then bring it down to a simmer, which I'm hoping happens soon because it's getting late and I'm tired. Okay, we're back and we got some full boil action right now. So I'm gonna go ahead and bring this guy all the way down to low, and I'm gonna put the cover on it, and I am going to go to bed because it is late. I think we started this whole ordeal around 8:30. Yeah, this takes a long time, and it's not like you have to go through the trouble of putting those bones in the oven for half an hour first, and then putting the apple cider vinegar in to leach out the minerals and let it sit for another hour. That definitely adds to it, but as you can see, this is kind of an ordeal anyways. So I just like to do it in bulk and do it kind of gourmet style, get it all done. So this is going to now sit here for at least 48 hours. Some people do it for 72 hours or longer, but that's kind of getting into the neighborhood of like half a week for planning some food, and that's a little bit too much for me. So we're going to check back on this in a day and check out how it looks. If you are not comfortable with leaving an open flame on your place when nobody's home, you can always shut this off in the morning, go to work, come back, leaving it covered of course, and then bring it back to a boil and bring it on low again. But yeah, I'll just kind of leave this going for 2 days, regardless of if somebody's home or not. So we'll check on it tomorrow.
All right, so it's been about 33 hours that our broth has been simmering. Let's check it out. Take a look at it.
It does make the whole house smell pretty good. And you can see it's just ever so slightly bubbling, and it's gotten really dark. All that collagen is coming out of the bones.
So now I'm just going to let this simmer for the rest of the day, and then tonight, probably pretty late before going to bed, I'm going to just shut it off, leave it covered, and give it a chance for that massive volume of liquid to cool enough that I can then pour it into some storage bags after straining it. So we'll see then.
Good morning. So I turned off the big pot of broth last night at about 11:30, and it continued to just kind of stew in there, but it's cool enough now that I can get this out and put it into the fridge and put it into the freezer without it being super scalding. So the couple tools that I have to do this are, and this really depends on how messy you want it to be. You can do this really, really fast, but a word of warning is all of that fat that came off the meat that was on the bones, if it gets on your counter and your floors, it's not the easiest thing in the world to clean up. So I've got this little guy here that actually has a spout lip on each side, so it's really good to kind of pour larger volumes of things. I've got just another pot right here with a little pasta strainer on top. And then this little guy is my favorite. You can grab this on Amazon for about 24 bucks, and it's a glass mason jar with a little tap on the bottom. And so this is what I use to dispense the bone broth every morning. I'll put this in the fridge. Last but not least, I've got some gallon Ziploc bags that the extra stuff is going to be going into the freezer in these. So you can start to take the broth right from the pot right here if you don't want to pick this massive thing up and move it. I'm going to get it over to the sink just to make as least of a mess as possible. Oh, all right. Get this thing situated. And that's a lot of bone broth. And then I'm going to take my other guy here and put this in the sink. Okay, so all I'm going to do is actually first, before I do anything, I'm just going to give this a bit of a stir because a lot of the fat, which we actually don't want to lose, is sitting on the top. So I'm just going to kind of mix it in so that I don't end up with some of the little baggies with all the good stuff in there. And then up with all the thinner broth. So I'm just going to dip this in here and pour it through the strainer.
Get one of those.
So I just take all that skin and fat and the chicken bone that is just so disintegrated that you could crumble it in your hands, and I throw it in the garbage disposal out of the strainer and just run that real quick. So you don't have to deal with really nasty, sloppy stuff in your garbage. So now I've got a more manageable pot that I can pour stuff into. And again, just because I tend to spill everything, I'm going to put that in the sink and then just give this a good pour. Not too slow because it'll kind of run out the bottom. This one, unfortunately, doesn't have a little spout on there. And that's why it's in the sink. And look at that beautiful bone broth. So the next step is to get some of the bone broth out of this mason jar and start filling up the Ziploc bags. So you're just kind of moving it from the pot to the mason jar to the Ziploc bags. And the reason that I do it in this order is because trying to pour something from a big pot into a Ziploc bag is not so easy. But this little spout makes it go really, really well. I've had a bit of a crazy morning this morning, and I've had to start and stop this process like 4 or 5 times. But check this out. You can see where all the really nice fat is starting to stick to the side there when it just even slightly cools, and you can see on the container here as well. Some people like to scrape that off. I like to just mix it in with the broth. This is good stuff. When it gets to this level of liquid where you have a bunch of the bones and knuckles and stuff in here, what I like to do is just pull out the bones and set those aside, like all these really big pieces of things that aren't going to be moving. You can see all the marrows out of these. Really, really cool. So once I picked out all the really big bones, like those bovine knuckles and everything else, I just picked up the pot and started pouring it in here. And now you can see things are really starting to move slow, so don't be afraid to get your hands in there with all this good greasy stuff and kind of agitate it. And I even give it a bit of a squeeze just to get all the liquid out and get it moving through the strainer so we don't leave anything to waste. You can just take it and dump it and run it right through your disposal. Any small pieces of bone in there are so soft at this point that you can just crush them in your hand and the disposal will take care of them just. So this is all filled up, and here's where we net it out. This is the 2-gallon mason jar, which is pretty close to being full. And then I have these 3 1-gallon Ziploc bags, which have a bit of space in them. So really, I'd say we've got about 4.5 gallons of broth here, which is very close to what we thought we were going to come out to be. So that whole ratio with the 2 pounds of bones per gallon, starting with the 8 pounds of bones, actually worked out really well. So something to note here is, because I had to kind of keep start and stopping this work, a lot of the fat separated, and you can see that these bags really look like they're pretty much just all broth, whereas this right here, all the fat is starting to separate, and that's gonna happen anyways. But I'm probably just gonna mix this all up in the pot one more time before I distribute it, so I don't have like all the fat and gelatin in one container. This is just gonna then go inside of my refrigerator, and you can just pour out a cup at a time and heat it up over the stove. 2 different methods for kind of getting it stirred up, because it is going to separate regardless. Sometimes what I'll do is just grab this container in the fridge and give it a good shaking, making sure that the cap is on secure. The other thing that you can do is just have a long wooden spoon handy and give it a good agitation all the way through before pouring a cup out. And that makes sure that you'll get all the good chunks of fat and gelatin and everything. So Stelly actually has a cup of bone broth with her breakfast in the morning, which she enjoys very much. How'd it come out, Stelly?
Really good.
See, the kids love it, and it is perfect for a wet and chilly Santa Monica morning like it is right now. All right, everyone. Thank you.